How y'all doing? This is Alvin with Trying Success on the Old Fashioned Health Network. Good health inside and out. So y'all see this guy right here? I'm like really excited about having you on my show. This is Mr. Jerry White, better known as Jay.
Yeah,
it's better known as Jay. Man, I am so happy to have you on my show because I feel like this is a learning opportunity for me. I'm honored, as you always do, the little thing, you know.
I'm honored too, man.
Man, I've watched you go from different platform, different businesses, because I know you had when I met you had Dream Cafe, right? Mm-hmm. All right, and so now, and that was just there was several things because you had the bow ties and things like that. But y'all, this guy's amazing. So I want to formally introduce you to Mr. better known as Jay. Thank you for coming and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Man, thank you for having me, man. I'm so honored and grateful. I always say, man, life is good. Life is just simply amazing, man. And thank you for allowing me to be here. And I count it an honor and a privilege, man, to know you and your hustle and your work ethic. And to even invite me into your space is humbling for me, so I'm grateful. I started as a barber. That's what I did.
Okay.
My whole entire life since I was 12 years old. Mm-hmm. And then barbering gave me the freedom to make my own schedule, make as much money as I needed to support myself. And it gave me options. You know, I could travel. So I was really good at what I did. I still cut hair. I still love it. Mm-hmm. But just really good at what I did. And that afforded me opportunities. It opened a lot of doors. It allowed me to travel. And the more you travel, the more your mind expands, the more exposure you get. Right. So that was really the beginning, man. And I have to salute my mom for having those little rusty pair of clippers in the linen closet next to the bathroom, man. And those clippers changed my life.
So where you originally from?
Born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, born and raised in Cincinnati. I left and moved to L.A., and L.A. is where I learned film. I ended up going to UCLA Film School for a short trek. Okay. And that's when it wasn't audio and video production. It was it was film, 35, Super 8, where you had to splice film, you know, and you had to put the audio behind it. Like, it was a real situation.
How hard is it for you to watch a movie and know what you know with film? Do you find yourself like either learning or picking the part, or do you do both?
Neither. When I go and sit down for a movie, if I go and sit down and watch a movie, it's because I'm unplugging from whatever it is I'm doing.
You're not trying to.
No, yeah, I'm not critiquing. I'm not.
Right.
You know, it's enough for everybody, for real.
Right.
Everybody has their own gifting. When I'm really moved by a film, I'll go back and watch it a couple times, not necessarily to learn tricks, just to admire what it is that I'm watching, like how it impacts and influences me. Mm-hmm. But I believe everybody has their own style, their own eye. It's kind of like writing a book for me. I remember my first book, I self-published, and I realized there's no one way to write a book. It's no one way to do it. As long as your punctuation is right, your grammar is correct, your subject-verb agreement, you know, matches. Like, right. It's no format that is better than anybody else. So with that, I think film, television, I think it's all the same. Now, I think there are some fundamentals that you need. Mm-hmm. Make sure your levels are right, you know, things like that. Right. But outside of that, I'm like, there's no right or wrong way to tell a story.
Right. So I looked at your Facebook, I mean, not your Facebook page, your website. Mm. And there's a short, maybe a minute and 6 second documentary that you talk a little bit about yourself. I made the great, and it wasn't a mistake. It was just like, so I watched it while I was on the radio, while I was at the radio station, just before we had gone to break. And I had talked about having you on my show today on Trying Success. And I said, let me show you, let's go to the website. And I clicked on it. It just kind of, I don't want to say it just put me in a different place to try to finish my radio show, because there was things about you that I did not know. I was like, wow, I didn't know this man had gone through even more. But I always say, in order to be successful, you have to have a story to tell. Mm-hmm. You can't be, two things I hate when people water down is success, because you have to have a story to tell in order to be successful. And testimonies, as they do in church, those things are not free. Mm-hmm. A real testimony is not that I paid Georgia Power. The testimony is I live without the lights. Mm-hmm. That's a testimony, not because God blessed me with the money to pay my power bill. How about when you have no power for like 6 months to a year? Then I want to hear that testimony.
No, I mean, that happened to me, like losing my my power. When I moved to LA, I had a barbershop, and I signed a. Yeah, man, this stuff.
I know it's gonna be a part two, because we can't do this in one sitting, right?
It's just amazing, man. Like the provision, the you know, you never know what's in you until you know what's in you. Man, what you're capable of until you put in a situation. You never know. Like what I went through a dream. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't know I had the potential to really harm somebody. I didn't really know that.
How'd you find that out?
I got put in a situation where I was like, I had already made up my mind. Like you about to be an ancestor. For real.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah, and I made up my mind. Like I had already settled it. Like it was a piece that was in, because you're not going to. Yeah, like you ain't gonna disrespect me.
Right.
That
just take from me like that.
No, it just don't work that way. That was the greatest lesson. It was like because of where I'm headed.
Okay.
And where my assignment for us as a people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have to know. Remember, what's his name? David. He had a run-in with a bear and a lion. So when he got to Goliath, he was like, "This ain't nothing," because I already had those trials. Yeah. He had some bigger trials. So for me, what's coming and what's in my spirit about societal issues that we have to face as a community of Black people, that I'm involved with that in some capacity. How our liberation, I'm involved in that. So the trials along the way are preparing me and building my muscles for what's to come. And that was just a part of it.
You know, I always said things that I've never looked at myself as failing at anything. It prepared me for the better thing.
So I had blood clots in my lungs. I went through that. That was right around 2010, I think, 2010.
Okay.
And then in 2014, 2015, I lost my eyesight. Literally went blind, like black blind.
How long was you out for blind?
A little over a month.
Had you settled that? Did you get to a place where you settled? Okay, so I may not get my sight back, so I need to learn how to cope with it, or did you like, oh, I know this is only for a season, I'm gonna get past this?
Well, thankfully, it was only one eye at a time.
Okay.
First, it was my right eye. That was it was completely black, but I could always see out of my left eye. And then I was put on a steroid, and over the course of about 3 weeks, my eyesight came back in my right eye, but it immediately went out in my left eye. It was a transfer. And there's a story behind that, and something that Spirit shared with me that was very, very intense and intricate, to where not just where I'm going, but where I'm supposed to help guide people.
Okay. All right. Wow. Man, you got such.
And then at the end of it, my eyesight came back. Like when the revelation was given, my eyesight came back like it had never left.
But when you were out and then you were in the hospital, you had the blood clots. Were you living here at the time, or you?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I was living here in Atlanta. I was married at the time and going through a divorce, ironically, and just needing to get to a quote unquote what I thought at the time a spiritual place. I was like, I'm just gonna go to Rome. So I just jumped on a flight and just flew to Rome. And I think I probably had about $70 to my name, but I knew I could eat on the airplane. So I worked at the airline. So I'm like, let me just get on the flight. Flew to Rome and just walked around. I slept in the airport. And
how long were you there?
Only about 2 days.
Okay.
And I'm getting to the blood clot. So long flight there, came right back. Long flight back, got out. landed here, jumped in the car, helped my stepfather move from Ohio to Atlanta, move some stuff from Ohio. So I had been sitting for a long period of time without circulation. So the blood clot started in my leg and it came up to my lungs.
Which is dangerous.
Very, very dangerous.
It actually killed.
I couldn't move. Yeah, I was like, I couldn't move. Like something ain't right. Something ain't right.
But you felt fine, but you couldn't move.
No, I felt horrible.
Okay.
I couldn't move. I knew something was wrong, so I inched my way to the hospital. I took myself in, and the doctor came. She was like, first they released me like, I ain't nothing wrong. Don't nothing come back on your CT scan or your X-rays. Then they did a CT scan. She was like, these are your lungs.
How are you?
They're supposed to be clear. They're full. Both of my lungs was full of blood, man. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Wow. So, on the business side, how many different businesses have you had or started? But before you answer that, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back to that, all right?
Okay.
How many different businesses have you actually formed? And I know there could be like a lot of them, but out of all of them, from top to bottom, which would be your favorite three?
Okay. So I'm going to run down this swiftly, but because I understand, again, I think life and this journey called life is about seasons.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, all right, we're going to go quick. So I moved to Los Angeles.
Okay.
Worked in a barbershop. Got into it with the owner. He disrespected one of my clients. Literally walked out of the barbershop, packed my stuff. Like, man, if I stay here, I know I'm going to do something to the guy. Walk out. Now I was on a bus. Barbershop in Inglewood. I lived in Watts. So I remember the bus stop was literally in front of the barbershop. But I was so livid, I walked. I couldn't stand there. I had to walk down to the next bus stop. As I'm walking to the next bus stop, I literally am walking past a window and the guy is putting a for rent sign in the window. Long story short, I walked out of that space into my own barbershop. Kept that barbershop for about 2 years. In the midst of that, I opened my first restaurant. I had an opportunity to buy a restaurant from an established guy in Inglewood. So I owned a barbershop and a restaurant. Was led to close those probably a year later, maybe a year later. Actually, I sold them. And that helped prepare me for the movies. Started a production company, Fishers of Men Productions, produced a couple of movies, a couple of features. And then from there, moved from LA to Atlanta. Ended up getting married. And from here, that's kind of where everything really just exploded. So wrote my first 9 books here. So I have a publishing company.
Okay.
And then that transitioned into, actually before that, simultaneously, I learned the art of spoken word and got in that industry, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So got in that spoken word industry, and that brought me opportunities.
Okay.
But I knew I wanted to be different. So as a poet, I started wearing bow ties. Like most people wore big baggy clothes, and I dressed up every time I went to
anywhere where I've ever always seen you.
Yeah, just dressed. And it was like, okay, that's different. So then I never was really into ties, so I wanted to wear bow ties because I thought anything that I'm going to do to stand out and be different, I'm going to do that. So I started wearing bow ties. Then people started to ask for the bow ties. Where do I get that? And because I'm a big guy, they didn't really make bow ties in the stores that, that fit.
They was they were real
very, very small.
Right.
It was a conflict. So I started seeking out seamstresses, and one thing led to another. Met a couple seamstresses, and they started making my ties. And then all these kids tap dance, and I was like, I got to do that. So I started studying these kids at YU, and they lived in Vegas, and I was just studying them, man. And I learned how to tap dance via YouTube, man, and I combine poetry and tap together.
Did you do something at the church? Yeah, I remember that. Okay.
Yep, a lot of times, actually, thankfully. Then I started getting booked by people like Byron Cage, and I mean, I've been all over the world doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, all over the world tap dancing and doing poetry. And,
Wow.
and speaking what I believe to be the truth about the divine to people. And that's been amazing. So, and these are all businesses, because this is the people book me, and this is how I get paid, right? So the people making my bow ties stopped. And I was literally traveling all over the world just to get 1 yard of fabric.
So how was that? Is it because it was a unique look that you wanted?
Yeah, I wanted to give something. I wanted to provide something exclusive. So the reason why I brought up the tap dancing and the poetry and the bow ties is because I actually was invited on a 5-day tour up in Maryville, well, Chicago, but Maryville, Illinois.
I know. Okay.
St. Louis, rather.
Okay.
But my gigs were at night, so during the day I was walking around this little town, and I came across this company that teaches you how to make beer and wine. Now, I've never tasted alcohol a day in my life or tried a drug, so when I went in, I was like, "What do you mean, people actually make this?" And the guy was like, "Yeah." I was like, "So can I have my own company?" He's like, "Yeah. If you could do some chemistry, you got some patience, you can learn about some soil." And
Okay.
so I started a wine company, and I was hosting wine events. Now, mind you,
Did you ever taste the wine?
No.
You made wine without even saying if this is understanding that it's grape, right? Which is more because so you made the wine. How'd you come up with the flavors to know it was?
I get to that.
Okay.
Just traveling. Remember, traveling. Like,
Right.
I had flight benefits, and I could travel anywhere. I was going to like Stellenbosch down in Cape Town. You know what I mean? Just visiting different vineyards and just learning. Like, that's a lot of the pictures and the videos you'll see.
Yeah.
You'll see me in different countries, and that's why I document it too, because people like, whatever.
You ain't
lying.
lying. I know. Want they? Yeah.
So keep in mind, I'm giving you a lot, but there are a lot of moving parts. So the
Okay.
bow ties, the performances, the tap dancing, the wine. So I'm gonna deal with the bow
left
ties
out
and the
one.
wine.
You left out one.
Which one?
The clippers that was in the bathroom.
Okay.
Brought that all here. Okay.
Still cutting hair.
Right.
Every week.
Right.
You know, and even though I closed my barbershop, I still had clients, as I do to this day. Like, I travel to my people, or they come to me.
And so they get a haircut, then they end up buying bow ties or a bottle of wine.
So, right. So let me stay on task. So traveling as a poet and a tap dancer gave me access to learning how to make beer and wine.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
I make wine, and now I start doing wine tastings and sponsoring events with the wine here in the city. So I have a lot of empty bottles at the end of the night. So I'm like, what can I do with these bottles?
I know where this is going. Keep going.
I have to be able to recycle these bottles, because I'm running through bottles. And that's where the idea came, to put the bow ties inside the wine bottles.
Please tell me how that happened. Is that a secret?
No, I want to say Linda. I think
She
Linda
did.
suggested it.
Right. She told us that.
Like, you should probably put some bow ties in these bottles.
But how do you do that though? Is it so? I'm guessing that you cut the bottom open.
You can't do it that way.
How you do it?
You have to fold the tie a certain way so it goes in the bottle, and then you attach it with a cork. And when it's just like anything, when you uncork wine, the tie comes out with it. Yeah. So I hope I made that all make sense. So
I'm with you.
So the bow ties, I put the bow ties in the bottles, and that became a tremendous seller for me. So people could, shout out to Linda Proctor Merritt.
Miss Linda, she's amazing.
Yep. You could, like, I did a lot of weddings, and how I presented, it was just like, this is your groomsman gift, and this is your wedding bow tie. So, all right, so we're going to put those together. Mm-hmm. That took me into Lenox Mall, then the Phipps Plaza, and then to this day, people still order my stuff online from being in those places. So now, you talk about, I want to talk a little bit about risk-taking.
Yes, please.
But
please.
I'll come back to the risk-taking in a minute. So
okay.
remind me to talk about the risk-taking.